A question I often ask our guests is this: what sort of a person succeeds at your organization? We get a lot of answers: a creative person, an innovative person, a passionate person. Vaibhav Gupta, the co founder and CEO of Udaan, also had similar answers, but there was one thing in particular.
There is a lot of premium in our company on hard work.
At first, I was a bit surprised by this answer. I mean, don't all businesses require hard work? Isn't it almost like a given? But Vaibhav explained further.
If you have people who are enjoy working hard, then 80% of your job is done.
I asked him to elaborate even further. So, Vaibhav went on to explain that Udaan is actually driven more by hard work, by rigor, by process than it is by creativity.
Udaan is on this side where a lot of value we will create for anybody is by processes and sheer execution on processes, not by creativity.
Vaibhav went on to explain what lies at the core of Udaan's business model.
The way in our business, the basic thing is you build a playbook of execution in a Bangalore or in a cluster, and then you generate value that playbook gets executed over decades.
And then it starts making sense why rigor ranks much higher than creative problem solving for Udaan, because Udaan wants to strike gold with an operational model, much like discount retailing giant DMart. Build a playbook, repeat it, scale it, improve it, repeat, repeat, repeat. Hello, I'm Rohin Dharmakumar and welcome to episode 38 of First Principles. You just heard Vaibhav Gupta, the CEO and co-founder of Udaan, an online trade platform whose mission is to transform India. It hopes to achieve that lofty goal by bringing tens of thousands of shopkeepers and grocery store owners closer to their suppliers and offering them competitive pricing, guarantees on quality, easy deliveries, and returns, etc. Stuff that we as consumers are used to. Vaibhav and both of his co founders, Amod, Malaviya, and Sujeet Kumar, were all senior Flipkart leaders before starting Udaan. And yet, he insists Udaan isn't merely a Flipkart for businesses. Since 2016, when it first began operations, Udaan has raised over $1 billion in venture capital. It was one of the fastest startups to achieve the unicorn tag. It has also gone through its ups and downs in terms of both valuations and headcount. In today's episode, part 1 of my conversation with Vaibhav Gupta, we discuss why Udaan evolved from a marketplace to a first-party business, why it decided to institute a formal CEO position only 5 years after starting up, the 5 pillars of Udaan's culture, and what daily conversations inside Udaan's leadership team looks like. There's a lot to unpack in this episode. In fact, you can now also click on chapters to jump through the sections and get to the ones that you want to really listen to. Let's get into it. Vaibhav, Udaan was started in 2016, and your vision was to, and I quote, transform the trade ecosystem in India by leveraging technology. Some other places it says your vision was to make business easy in India. What do these mean?
See, I think it kind of goes back to some of my journey, right? Prior to Flipkart, I spent some time in. I went to US for my business school and spent some time in US after that in a job. Few things I got very
You worked at Trilogy, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah after
Trilogy.
so Trilogy was after my undergrad, so I was just here in Bangalore and then went for my business school after Trilogy. So
You were a consultant?
yeah, I was at McKinsey after my business school. So one few things I got very kind of into when I was at business school: the economic theories, how economies work, how countries work, uh, financial theories, how capital markets work, right? And while obviously I won't appreciate the detail just in a business school, but you could easily see how the, how powerful economies and markets, if done well, can do to a country, right? And you always coming from India, you're always kind of at back of it, like why India is here and why kind of. And then I spent some time and saw some kind of when I was at in my McKinsey days working with different companies. You see these companies like Costco's and Walmart's. I was very inspired by them. I felt that these are the companies which become so integral to a country, the life, the society. Like these obviously become very large over a period of time, but these companies become very integral to the life of a country, right? Uh, and I think some of these ideas about that uh, you know there is so much you could do in India, from the where India is as an economy, as a society. If things get done well, you could actually the country could progress in a very different speed and state. And this notion of like massively unorganized uh, retail distribution chains in this country, which kind of these companies like Walmart really sort of drove the organizing in US.
Sorry,
So
Weber, just to interrupt you, you talked about Walmart and Costco. What can I ask you? What sectors did you work in while you were at McKinsey?
so early part of McKinsey, you kind of work across. So I think I worked in retail, I worked in consumer goods, I worked in telecom, I worked in logistics,
Got it.
worked in distribution, waste management, trains. So you kind of go across.
And
Yeah.
after that stint, you joined Flipkart.
Yeah, I joined Flipkart.
Was it the IIT-D connection that got you to Flipkart?
You could say in a way, what has happened was
You
you know,
graduated from IIT-D. That's why I'm saying, because a lot
yeah.
of the
So I was in
Flipkart folks.
Bangalore after was in Trilogy, right after my undergrad, and so I had lots of Trilogy friends still in Bangalore. So when I was in US at doing my job, I used to come to India for winter break, meet my parents, spend some time with the friends. So I was in Bangalore meeting some of my Trilogy friends, and one of them. So we said we'll catch up for a coffee here near in Kormangla, where there used to be uh, that Raheja arcade.
Yes.
And that older kind of area when there used to be. So there was some coffee shop. I forgot the name. So Trilogy office was also there, right behind Raheja arcade. So we caught up over there, and then one of them we said, "Hey, He had some connection to Sachin, so he said, "Oh, I'm just going to Sachin's office. He has started something. Why don't you come along and we will go for dinner after that or something like that." So I said, "Yeah, I'll come along." I never knew Sachin from IIT or hostel days. He was actually a junior of mine, but I knew he was the person. But I did not know Flipkart. I did not know him. So we just went to his office and then we should. It was small office at that time. They were doing books. I think some 100 books a day or something. Then he told me like, I've started this. This is what I'm doing. So kind of there wasn't it kind of that thing got stuck in the head like, okay, this is something he's doing. Then after kind of 3 years of 2 3 years of consulting, I was thinking like technically what should I do, and I wanted to. I had, as I said, I was very interested in financial markets, capital markets, economy. So I was actually going to a hedge fund. So I spoke to a hedge fund in Chicago. They used to do options trading, and I said, okay, let's. So I was going to move to them, right? And then uh, I got a message from Sachin when I had sort of told McKinsey I'm leaving and I accepted the hedge fund job in Chicago. I got a message like, I wanted to meet my one of my investors, Lee, right? And
That's Lee Fixel.
So Lee was in New York at that time, and I said, "Yeah, I'm actually heading to New York for one of my client engagements. I'll see him." So I met Lee at that point of time, and so Sachin was he wanted to bring more people into his company, right? And then we started talking. I had a couple of conversations. So I felt like there was that sense of, okay, something he's trying to do. I could do hedge fund anytime. So I said, kind of instinctively, let's take a bet on this and sort of go forward.
So you came back and
Yeah,
joined
so I
Flipkart.
came back.
When was that?
That was 2011.
And how long were you at Flipkart? About 4 years? 5?
Almost 4 years. I kind of left 2016, so about 5 years, 4.5, 5 years.
So you and your co-founders Amod and Sujeet, all of you were at Flipkart.
Yeah.
And there used to be this, I mean, when you folks started Udaan, and of course all of you being from Flipkart, the I think the analogy or the mental model that a lot of people applied was, hey, Udaan is trying to do a Flipkart for B2B. Was that accurate? Flipkart being largely a B2C business, business to consumer, where they're trying to solve for, like, how do you make a lot of products available directly? And you folks, I go back to what I said earlier, transform the trade ecosystem in India, making business easy in India.
No,
What was the
because
vision?
it wasn't that, at least not the way we thought about it. Like
I figure because this is what people from the outside
Yeah,
are
yeah.
thinking.
I
So,
don't
what
think-
were you thinking on the inside?
So I think for us, kind of, it goes back to what I was talking to you earlier, that this whole idea of that you could transform a country if you actually really worked on the economy. That idea was always very core to me in my head. So
What does that mean, Vaibhav? When you say transform a country, what does that mean? I mean, the
See-
three of you are at Flipkart, like, let's say 2014,
see, look
15.
at Bangalore. I came to Bangalore first in 2002, and in last 20 years, this city has outpaced, say, Chennai, in many ways, in terms of just the growth of the city, the growth of the lifestyle of the people, what kind of ideas are happening in Bangalore, and what work is happening, right? Because the economy of the Bangalore got transformed, which transformed the people around it and the state around it, right? That's what I mean by that, in terms of how, if you can improve the economy of a country, it uplifts the country.
I'm still not clear because I see the larger arc that you're painting, and it always happens. But as an entrepreneur, as a as a founder, what was the business opportunity that
Yeah,
you
yeah. So
saw?
I'll come to that. So I think it's kind of how we thought about it. If you saw I grew up when I was in India. I grew up a lot in a trading family. My family was mostly banyas and doing different types of trading, wholesale trading, retail trading, right? I used to go with my
You grew up in Delhi.
Delhi and kind of Rohtak. So I used to go with my chachajis when they will source the products to these wholesale markets, Nai Sadak, Naya Bazaar, Chavi, and kind of see what's happening. I used to walk from there, and there was like some laborers spending like 12 hours carrying a bullock cart on their shoulders, and they'll just be barely able to make any money to even survive and eat dinner in the end. Like all day they will work for 12, 14 hours and just bare enough money, and next day they'll come and do and this. That's what I mean. If you went to, and I went to US, and laborers were far more developed. Like if somebody was a laborer or doing a manufacturing labor in a factory or in a transport, his life was much better. He was living properly, he was making good wage, he was, that to me is a transformation of economy. Like you actually put so much labor in this country in India, but you're not able to generate those much returns out of that. That's a developing economy or underdeveloped economy. Same labor in a developed economy gives you a lot more returns, and that's because the economy is underdeveloped, right? You see in India farmers, you need to see retailers, you need traders. The whole ecosystem in this country is just sheer hard work, but their lifestyles and their lives are much lower compared to what is in a developed state. because these are unorganized.
Sure, but we are also a developing country. We're also a very populous country. We
So
have
that's
a
what I'm saying.
surplus.
That's the
Yeah.
opportunity. That's
But
the
how? Sorry, I still don't understand because they're not your customers. Udaan doesn't target the laborer or the this thing.
so
So,
Udaan targets farmers. Udaan
hmm,
targets small manufacturers.
hmm.
Udaan targets wholesalers. Udaan targets retailers. They're all who are actually working in this economy, right?
Can you again, like, take me back to that time when the three of you said we got to start something
Yeah.
and there's a large opportunity? What was that
So the
opportunity?
large opportunity for us was
Or
that
perhaps your VC pitch, like in some ways, or your internal pitch.
I think the VC pitch came after because we started with three of us, right? So the large idea was that you have this very unorganized economy in this country, and largely it's a trade economy. If you look at India's economy, it's a trade economy. Uh, and what we had seen in Flipkart is the power of e-commerce, that it can scale. It can scale as, but what we also saw was that even within Flipkart, we weren't really able to attack, you can call low price point, mass price points of the country. We were always struggling with that 200 rupee, 300 rupee, 400 rupee order value. Like in my 4 or 5 years at Flipkart, we increased our minimum shipping threshold from say 99 to then 199 to 399. We kept, because you couldn't figure out
The
a model
economics
to
didn't work.
you couldn't figure out a model to serve. So we saw the power of e-commerce, but also the limitation. And we also saw this massively unorganized trade economy, which was still driving a lot of consumption in this country, production consumption, but was inefficient. But it was unorganized, right? And we started talking to these guys, people who were wholesalers or millers. We went to some of them. Each one of them was saying, "Oh, I'm building an app of my own. I'm building a website of my own. My problem is to get new customers." Everybody believed that they'll get more customers somehow online. Everybody had that belief, but they did not know, and everybody was doing their own thing. You went to shopkeepers, you went to small restaurants. Everybody thought they will get better pricing online if they bought, if somebody came to them, but they did not know where to go. So everybody had a sense that online will be the future, and were trying their different ways, but there was no platform which was sort of solving. So you walk into a wholesale market, and like we used to do that. And for me, the biggest realization, I walked into one of the markets in Mumbai. It was, I think, Khetwadi market, which is steel market. Then we walked into some consumer FMCG wholesale market. I said, this thing cannot be, if you take a 30-year forward, we will not be the same way. Some way technology is going to change this massive activity which is happening over here. To me, that was the thesis of Udaan, that this massive activity which is happening will not happen the same way in 30 years, or somewhere the technology and internet will change it. What we did not know was what it will become. That was
That's fair.
that's
I
the
get it.
thesis of
So you
Udaan.
see the long arc, and
Yeah.
you're saying digitization, formalization, the entry of technology and platforms will fundamentally transform this large chunk of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
trade ecosystem in India. And you want to be, or
That
Udaan
was
should
the
be the.
thesis of Udaan, and that's was the thesis of, if we did that, you can actually make a big impact into India. That's how the thesis of started, of like why we should do it.
All right. I read that you have a network of 3 million plus registered users and 25 to 30,000 sellers on your platform. I'm sure perhaps those numbers have updated or changed, but what do these numbers mean? When you say 3 million plus registered users, who are they? And the 25 to 30,000 sellers, who are they?
So I think through our journey, right, we once we got into this, like, here is this opportunity we want to go after. Obviously, a little bit of muscle memories played in, of coming from Flipkart. We had a lot of, you can say, muscle memory and bias for fast scale, because that was something we learned and we saw everybody's output of their own journeys. So through the first, I would say, 4 or 5 years of Udaan, that's what we did. Like we bought this platform and we started in Bangalore. We got some wholesalers in Bangalore. and some. So we started with customers in Mysore, Coimbatore, Hassan,
Customers being shop owners.
shopkeepers. So
Got it.
we used to go to
Kirana, largely Kiranas.
so
Small.
Kirana came in almost 3 months later. First was garment, electronics. Then Kirana customers in Bangalore we started almost 3 months later. So in the first 6-9 months we went to these shopkeepers. So I'll kind of go to the shopkeepers and say, here is an app, here is how you can buy it. And then they'll ask me what products you are selling. Then I'll show them samples of the products, so samples of clothing. We'll have a clothing sample bag. We'll have electronics accessory sample bag. We'll have some rice ke packets of sample bags, and we'll use them to show this is the products, this is the quality, this is the price. And then they will place an order. The seller will ship the products, and we will pick it from the seller, deliver it to them. So that was what we started initially. It was a
The
market.
traditional, sorry to interrupt you, but the traditional way before this was that each of these shops would have their local relationships from some other, like, physical. Because I'm trying to understand, what were you trying to disrupt or change before
Yes.
this?
So all categories had different things, but let me give you an example. An accessories shopkeeper, a mobile accessories shopkeeper sitting in Mysore, what he will used to do is every 2 weeks he will come to SP Road in Bangalore,
Which is the electronic
which is the electronics
market
wholesale
yeah.
market, and he will go to 6 or 7 shopkeepers, and he will make a purchase of, let's say, 70,000-80,000 rupees, right, across different shopkeepers. He'll buy some tempered glass, some case covers, some chargers, some cables, and then he will
Is he usually buying this on credit or on
mostly on cash, right? Sometimes if he's a big guy, he'll get a credit, but mostly on cash. And then he will give money to a transporter, and that transporter will transport it from the SP Road to his shop in Mysore. Okay. And then every day he got some small items. He will phone somebody locally wholesale in Mysore. Mysore also has a small local wholesale. He'll say that guy will deliver to him in the evening or something. So small on
So
demand.
that's like top up.
Top up he will do locally, and kind of the big purchases he will do, like we all do, right?
Yeah.
So that is the structure. Now, the problem for that guy was once ever he comes to Bangalore, he has to buy 15 days worth of product. So he has to block his cash. He has to pay cost of coming to Bangalore, shut his shop down. And he's still not sure if he's getting the best products. Now he got products to his shop. The quality was defective, so he can't do much. So he has to assume that piece in that. What we did for that shopkeeper was we brought all of that selection to him. We gave him guarantee on quality, that if the quality is incorrect or crap, if something is defective, we'll take it back. We said you order from your shop, you'll get it delivered next day. You don't have to order 50,000, 70,000, you can order 3, 4,000, 5,000 as you need it. And you'll get full range, not just in Bangalore, but also what is in Mumbai, in Kafar market in Delhi. You'll get the full range. For that person, he got better range, more competitive pricing, on-demand delivery to his shop, and quality. So for his life changed. For the wholesaler sitting in Bangalore, they were only accessing a certain set of customers. Like if you think about Karnataka,
who walk into their store or with whom they have relationship.
Typical wholesaler was dealing with 200 shopkeepers, 300 shopkeepers. But if you look at Bangalore itself will have close to maybe 10,000 shops of mobile and mobile accessories. If you add Mysore, Hassan, Tumkur, which all come to Bangalore, you will actually have another probably 5 to 10,000 shops, 20,000 shops. But each wholesaler was only accessing 150, 200. So they were able to get access to more customers. Imagine somebody sitting in Mumbai was able to get access to the customers in Mysore. So there was an inefficiency in the system because access was localized. Price was only transparent in local sort of 5-6 table to table negotiation. And we unlocked that whole thing by actually bringing full range, full competition from different sellers. So price became competitive, access became democratic, ordering becomes far more fast versus heavy ordering. So working capital for shopkeeper was rotating fast. This is how we created the value for customers and sellers. And over time, we started moving from sellers back to manufacturers, wholesalers back to manufacturer. And this thing has played out in all categories. like different categories have different time, but this is the basic reality of
Got it.
how it plays out.
How does Udaan make money?
So I think that basic business model is almost like a DMart business model. We stock products of different manufacturers. These are typically big brands, tier 2 brands, tier 3 brands, and we also have our own private brands. So we stock these products and we reach out to shopkeepers across a given geography. And we basic business model for us is the gross margin we make on the products we are selling. So we buy from manufacturers and we have a gross margin when we sell to retailers. So that's our basic DMart based business model. We keep a large range and we make a gross margin on that range.
Got it.
Hi, I'm Anushka, and I think you've heard me a couple of times now on the First Principles podcast. If you haven't, I produce this podcast, and my colleague Rajiv, our resident sound engineer, puts our episodes together. Thank you, by the way, for listening to First Principles. Now, every week, I tell you a little bit about the most recent edition of our companion First Principles newsletter. Because I really think that if you like this podcast, then this newsletter is for you. Because every Sunday, the newsletter drops into your inbox with one idea, mental model, or framework that you can use in life and work. Very similar to the ideas and the first principles thinking that we often discuss about in the First Principles podcast. In fact, I think it makes for a perfect Sunday morning coffee read, especially because every edition has wonderful photographs, book recommendations, and even music playlists, and they're all compiled from the First Principles community. And here's the thing that I want to tell you: the First Principles newsletter is actually completely free. All you have to do is sign up. And that's easy too. There's a link in the show notes that leads you directly to the newsletter. Or you can go to your browser and type the-ken.com/newsletters/first-principles. Thank you for your time. Back to Rohin now.
I was going to ask you about how old is the company? You started 2016. Incidentally, the same age that we started the Ken as well. How many employees are there today at Udaan?
We'll have about um, 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,500 employees.
Right.
Yeah.
How much venture capital have you raised? You've raised a lot, I know.
I think across the rounds we've raised about $1 billion of venture capital. Yeah.
And what was your most recent valuation?
So that's something we don't disclose. We raised a total round of about 340 million.
All right.
Yeah.
What's your revenue?
So revenue, gross margin, CMs tend to be confidential for us.
Got it.
Doesn't make sense for a company like us to disclose, so we don't.
Is there any other business metric that you do disclose that gives a size or a sense
Typically,
of the
I
scale?
think one of the things, see, the core to this business is customers, which is true for almost all businesses. The core for this is, for us, it's number of shops or number of outlets which buy regularly on Udaan. For us, that number today is about 300,000, which is regularly buying on Udaan.
So these are what, I mean, earlier I referred to as registered users. A user
So
is
registered
someone-
user is anybody who downloaded app and registered on the app. It's almost like traffic of a
got it,
website,
got
but
it.
it's kind of
And a
conversion
subset of that.
The
So 3
conversion.
million registered users, 300,000 out of them are transacting.
So
and-
these are the ones who are regularly buying on every month on the brand.
Got it. And my last question would have been, how many co-founders are you? You're 3 co-founders?
Yeah, so 3 of us started the company, Sujeet and Amod. That's yeah.
All right. I want to go slightly deeper into your business because it has evolved. Like you just explained, you started with a very overarching sense of, okay, this is the space that we want to be in. There's a lot of inefficiency here. And over a 20 to 30 year period, it's undeniable that things will change. And we want to be in the middle of it. And we want to be the ones making a lot of this change happen. Now I want to go deeper into your business model and how you make money. So there are platform fees from sellers. Help me understand this, right? Charging for logistics, warehousing.
So I think you're talking
advertising,
a
yeah.
lot more about our journey.
Right, right.
Right.
Like, so the business model, how has the business model evolved from that original thought that you had that, look, we want to be here, to now, of course, you're in your eighth year. So it's evolved. There's much more complexity and granularity in your business model. How do you see what Udaan is today vis-a-vis, let's say, in
So the
2014, 15,
biggest
18?
shift for us is like the market and the opportunity has continued to become real every year. I don't think that has changed. The biggest shift in our business model is we started as a marketplace, right? Uh, we have now become predominantly a first party business. That has been the biggest shift
Help
for
me
us.
understand, what does that mean?
So marketplace is when you have sellers and buyers buying, and you sort
So
of
you're just
enabling
a
the
kind of platform
platform
intermediary.
enabling, right? Versus now we are actually a first party in the middle, like a DMart, where we buy from vendors. We decide what products we will want to sell on our Udaan platform. We buy them from vendors, stock it in our warehouse, and we sell it to the
Got it. So
shopkeeper.
is this, I mean, to someone from the outside, is this like the mirror opposite of the way the B2C space evolved in India, where it started with an inventory model, and then in over a period of time, if you look at either Flipkart or if you look at even Amazon, it transitioned to largely being like a platform model, whereas you seem to be saying
No, so
that's the
that's
other way
not right.
around.
So if you look at Rohin, even in B2C e-commerce in India, I believe almost 90% of B2C in India is actually first party.
Or it's just
Yeah, it's
structured to look
so means
like,
if you look at the business model
right.
core, and see that's less about
Sorry,
B2.
why do you say that? Because I mean,
If you
before we
look
move
at the
on from
big
this point,
baskets, all the grocery e-commerce is first party.
right?
If you look at electronics commerce, that's mostly like smartphones, and those are all first party from a business model perspective, right?
I mean, help me understand this, Vaibhav, because usually whenever we order anything online, the way it's structured is the seller is almost always distinct from the platform. Are you saying? I mean, we all know that there's been a lot of legal maneuvering that's happened to create these other sellers. Is that what you're referring to?
No, no, not the legal. See, I think that to me is that's not business models.
Right.
That's how you uh, figure out how do you solve for local markets. So
Sure.
I don't think I'm talking about the business models, right? I think the business model in e-commerce graduated a lot from basically eBay to Amazon.
Hmm.
Like if you think about eBay was the quintessential marketplace. Started in 1990s, was
Right.
a quintessential marketplace. Even today, the largest e-commerce marketplace in the world. The biggest thing which Amazon disrupted with eBay was that customer service. Like in eBay, you were not sure as a customer, you didn't get that sticky, reliable, promised customer experience. That's what Amazon did when they came on and organized it, right? They started playing the first party role. Like, I will sell to you, I'll make sure it gets delivered. If it is quality defect, I will take it and I'll deal with my vendors separately. That's the deal with like a chai shop, like unorganized chai shop versus organized. You get consistency and quality.
Got it.
So the world moves from unorganized to organized over time. So I don't think it's a B2C versus B2B. But I think for us also the journey was as we started think what our customers are caring about, and we realize in kind of EB2B, shopkeepers repeat is core to this business. If you cannot, you can acquire a customer, but if you can't repeat that customer, there's no business. We started realizing that we were losing a lot of customers because we weren't able to give them reliable fill rate. They will order, the seller may not pack or send a half fill rate. Sometimes the quality was not off and the timing was off. That was a big problem we started seeing, and we started transitioning as we started saying, okay, for customers we want to give them a reliable, complete experience, which meant we need to hold the ownership. We at least have to hold them in our warehouse. So we started first the transition from having marked sellers stocking into our warehouses. Then we realized it is actually inefficient. Within our warehouses, we used to have 3 sellers selling Coke bottles on 3 different shelves with the same exact product sold by 3 different guys. It was increasing inefficiency for us, increasing inefficiency for them. And we said there is a cost of that thing. And we realized that it's better for us to own that inventory and actually sell to the customer directly. So so we moved from a marketplace to a first party. That has been our biggest evolution from a business model point of view.
So I assume that a lot of your investments have gone into setting up these warehouses and, I mean,
So unlike to C, the to B fulfillment centers are not very capex heavy, right? Because you're not moving goods which are small quantity. You're moving, in most cases for us, we're moving uh, gunny bags, big boxes. So it's not very capex heavy fulfillment centers. The EB2B is far more operational business. So it tends to be more OPEX heavy.
so just to understand that, when you say like a typical B2C warehouse is more capital capex heavy, are you referring to the fact that the items held there have higher value, or are you referring to the fact that it's operationally more complex to sort and pick and move smaller units of items from a warehouse, or is it a
Yeah,
common?
so it's a little bit of the second, because if you think about a 2C, they're selling eaches. They're selling, say, a one box of a particular type of a footwear, one smartphone, a small memory chip, or they're selling garment of a particular size, or they're selling FMCG items, or they're selling 1 kg sort of rice bags. So there's sort of smaller pieces, larger sort of, maybe they're keeping a large inventory of them across. The efficiency in a 2C warehouse thus gets driven by capex. You take this large one and you create 4-story sort of within that, because that gives you the efficiency of the warehouse from a cost point of view. It makes sense to do that. And then you create moving belts, sortation belts. You create all of that because it gives you efficiency in that system. But if you came to an Udaan FC, you'll see massive volumes.
By FC mean fulfillment
Fulfillment center. Massive volumes. You will see bags and bags of rice, sugar, but you can't just pick them and sort them and put them on a moving belt. They're just lying on sort of crates, and you have to organize space efficiently. But you won't have very ground plus one plus two plus three plus four with moving belts. That's not
Is
the
it also because the turnover is much quicker in a B2B this thing? Is that why you don't? I'm trying to understand, why is it that a B2C fulfillment center needs to stock much more things versus a B2B?
It's not much more things. It's the units you're storing and moving. Like,
Or the variety of things that you keep, as well as how much of, because you said a B2C center may have 3-4 stories. I'm just trying to understand why.
because it's far more efficient to actually, for example, let's say you take any fulfillment centers of say 50,000 square feet, right? If I your 2C platform, what would you do is, oh gee, I can actually make 4 stories over here, right? So I can leverage my same rent, to actually stock a lot more inventory over here. And my picking system is somebody walking through the shelves and picking 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, putting it in a basket and putting it that. Now for Udaan, the picking system is not like that. A person walks in and picks things like that. You have to move a forklift and pick 50 kg bag. These
So you
bags.
can't
You
vertically
can't
just
just verticalize it. So the capex comes in verticalizing it. So our FCs become less capex heavy.
got it.
Yeah.
You're also in the lending space. You started by, by trying to make it easier for shopkeepers to buy and sell products. Uh, Along the way, you also started lending the working capital. Is that still a business line for you, and how
Yeah.
is that going?
Yeah. So I think it started from very early days, right? When we went up to shopkeepers, we said, okay, you guys, you should buy from us, right? And they started trying us. And then we reached out to them. They said, okay, we have had good experience. I've been buying from you. I placed these orders. I'm happy. Then I said, okay, in your shop, you actually are buying every month 2.5, 3 lakh. But on Udaan, in last 2-3 months, you have bought like 25, 30,000. Then I asked him, why are you not buying more from Udaan if you're happy? तो उसने बोला कि सर देखो, this is fine, I'm happy, but if I have to buy larger, you need to give me
Credit.
credit, because that's what I get from. Then we started understanding why that happens. So a lot of retail, for a given shopkeepers, about 60-70% of what he's selling in his shop in India, he finances that from his suppliers. That's the basic business model from a ROI point of view. And that's core to that person to be able to actually
So
generate
basically,
return.
using working capital
Yeah,
in order to
because
finance
his
your
argument
business.
is, I have either spent a capex on the shop, or I'm paying the rent for the shelf. That's my investment into it. Now, if I have to sell your products or your products, you finance me for that. That's how the role of wholesalers and distributors came into the country. One of the roles of wholesalers and distributors. Manufacturers will not have the ability to finance these shopkeepers. Manufacturers themselves have high working capital cycles. So wholesalers and distributors started the role of financing the customer. That becomes a natural form of working with shopkeepers. So we said, okay, great. That's something needed to grow our business with you. So we started experiments with that. We started actually in Mysore only. We started giving small lending and understood what does it take to lend, what does it take to collect, and build that capability over time. And I think that has been one of the big differentiators for Udaan as Udaan scale, because unless you have that capability, you can't scale the business with a shopkeeper, right? You can get a lot of people to try you, but they won't scale up. And unless you scale up, you can't get your productivity, your operational efficiency, your costs, right? So we built that. And I think what happened is pretty much like, I would say, like AWS has done for Amazon. We built this capability for Udaan's core business. And then we had some of the brands, mid-tier brands like a Saint Gobain or Finolex. Like these guys started coming to us and said that, you're anyway lending to shopkeepers. I have a dealer network of 1,000 dealers, right? Can you finance them for my purchases? They're buying from me, but I can't finance. And so we said, okay, we'll try, because we anyway had the ability to underwrite shopkeepers and collect from them. And we were present all over India. And these guys were looking for these are mid-tier brands, and they're looking for, their dealers were smaller and they were spread out. So they did not have an ability. So we did those experiments, and we saw that business really working well, which is what we call as Udaan Capital, called supply chain financing. We focus on mid-tier brands, which are smaller dealers across the country. The top tier brands, like a Samsung, will typically get financed by ICICI, the dealers of Samsung first. But for the smaller dealers, for mid-tier brands, you don't have that. So that's what Udaan Capital is. It became so over the last 2 years, first we did the experiments. It was during the COVID time we were doing that. Over the last 2 years, it's a profitable business. It's an EBITDA profitable business. It's a growing business, right? And it's becoming. I think we feel quite strongly about the market opportunity and our play in that. So that's what that
Got
business
it.
is.
Just last couple of questions on your business. Our research also shows up that roughly 50% of Udaan's revenue comes from selling fruits and vegetables, and the rest is split between apparels, pharma, mobiles, and general retail items. Is that broadly in the ballpark?
Um, about roughly about two-third, I would say two-third of our business is gonna be grocery, which is staples, FMCG, fruit, vegetable. That kind of is how we think. About a third of our business will be kind of the
The other category.
non-grocery, which will be pharma, electronics, garments, like that.
Got it. When you started Udaan, you and Amod and Sujeet, there was no CEO position between the three of you. Help me understand that. But now there is. There was some evolution that took place. So I want to understand both of the philosophies, right? That when you started, why was there no CEO? And along the way, what did you learn and what changed in that philosophy? You're now the CEO.
Um, I would say at some level it's fairly simple. At some level, it has obviously a lot of layers. Um, we three came together with an idea that we want to do something big. We want to build something big. That was the central reason we came together, right? And we had seen enough of each other in Flipkart to be feeling comfortable that yeah, we can sort of work together, right, with all of us. And that's how we started. Now, very early on, we the first time we were faced this question was one of the VCs who was, I think, either he was coming in Series B, yeah, I think something like that. So they asked like, why do you not CEO? We started talking about, okay, what, like, we didn't start with that initially. And so we spoke to some of our investors at that time, and they said that, yeah, at some point of time it would make sense, but we don't have to force that conversation if we don't need. And so we kind of let it go at that time. We said we didn't need to force it, and we kind
But
of
how was
were,
it structured till then?
we kind of
Because
working on sort of each of our strengths, right? Means all of three of us come with different sort of intuitions and skill sets. Three of us working in all of those directions. I think as we became larger, both from a scale of the business, scale of employee base, uh, and the and also just the sheer uh, uh, the investor base we were dealing with, vendor base we were dealing with, just broadly the size of the business increased, and we started realizing that this management model was losing the pros and cons were puts and takes were shifting for that. And then we started talking between us, and we spent almost an year in that process as a board, as three of us, uh, to really sort of work through kind of what's the right answer for Udaan, right? And I think through that journey, we sort of concluded that I think it's the right time for the company now to actually move to a more institutionalized structure, a more CEO-led management structure. So we first concluded that. That took almost like 6.5, 7 months from a journey, which like we involved a lot of people in the company, senior leaders, investors, got feedback from different people to get to that. Then we said, okay, now if that's the answer, how do we go about? Then we ran another kind of 3-4 month process of who should be like given internal, external, bring in new buddy, right? And that sort of finally, as we went through that, we concluded that the right thing for the company at that point in time, this was kind of, I would say 2020 after COVID or 21 after COVID. After COVID second wave or third wave, we said right now for the best answer for the company is kind of one of the, and then we worked through the process and I became the CEO. So it's been a journey for us through that kind of 1.5 year, but largely led by scale. It just became a larger organization. It just was becoming inefficient and ineffective.
if you could, with the benefit of hindsight, go back to when you started, would you clarify this earlier on? Because I only ask this because it's unusual what you folks did. Typically, the the clarity of, okay, there is a set of founders, one of them is X, one of them is Y, one of them is CEO, gets established much sooner.
I think if in hindsight, I would say uh, definitely earlier than what we did, but I don't think it's needed day zero. I don't think
Fair.
it's needed day zero. At some point early enough, once you get the product market fit and sort of early on, the teams are not that big, right? Maybe like less than 150 people. I think till then you're like very smallish. You're working with a lot of personnel. It kind of works over there. After that, it tends to sort of not work.
Good. Culturally, how is Udaan as an organization? Is it, I mean, was there, like you said, that we are all the products of our past? Was there a certain amount of Flipkart culture that came along with the three of you folks because you were all ex Flipkart? Was there a conscious attempt to move away from it? What is it today? What is the Udaan culture like?
I think few things will be for today's Udaan culture. There is a lot of premium in our company on hard work. I think in today's Udaan, you need to be a person who has strong work ethics, who can put in a lot of time, uh, go into details, close things. Uh, there's a lot of today's Udaan. I think there is a lot of that sense of you have to work hard to build something of value. There's a lot of that, and I think people who enjoy that, that's where kind of there is a bit of that. I think um, it is a culture of I would say um, fast. There is a lot of fastness in the system. We execute fast, so I think that's there. Uh, there is a lot of uh, multi-party problem solving. Like there's not much kind of hierarchies from problem solving point of view. I think some of these are more kind of, I would say, Flipkart things we've carried. Um, there is people, a lot of people will associate Udaan as their own identity. I think that's also part of the culture of kind of Udaan. They will associate like this is who I am, and so they have that kind of sense of the company. Um, there is a lot more. I think we have the. I think from Flipkart times now there is more gray hair, so there is a lot more appreciation of being able to say, "Yeah, gee, I was wrong, and I made a mistake, right? I got it wrong." So there's a lot
Sorry, who
more
was wrong?
like, "Gee, I was wrong," like that sense
Oh, okay,
of
okay. I heard that as GI was
no,
wrong,
no,
and
no,
I was like,
no.
who's GI?
So it's like more appreciation that kind of you will make mistakes and being able to accept and have people around you to make sure that the final answer, like being able to put your biases on the table. I think we are a lot more. So there has been some of that growth for us. Yeah, these are some of the
Got
elements
it.
of what I'm.
I'm fairly sure, almost like 100% sure, that when you were starting Udaan, you would not have thought that hard work would be the first thing that you would say 8 years later when someone asked you about culture. What changed? Why is like structurally, overall in the environment, like it just seems you and I are the same age. So I certainly do know what you're referring to, but I'm just trying to understand how did we get to a point where we have to explicitly talk about working hard or having a hard work ethic as an important part of culture?
ऐसा नहीं है Rohin. I think even in Flipkart, I would say we used to work very hard.
No,
ऐसा
but
नहीं. It's not like, but I think the
no,
appreciation
my
of
point was not that Flipkart doesn't work hard. I'm
it's
just
being
saying
able
that,
to call it out as one of the most important things. The realization of it, I
right.
think, has become more
So we
clear.
can't, so essentially you're implying that we can't take it for granted. Because by that logic, I could say that all startups or most startups will say hard work is implied. But you're saying it is much more than that. It is important, it is part of your
Yeah,
culture. Why?
I think मुझे लगता है कि it goes to what we're trying to do at Udaan. I think it is a little bit, your culture cannot exist in absence of a business or the
Absolutely.
market you're trying to solve for, right? Means if you're trying to build Apple, you may have a different culture than if you're trying to build Walmart, and we are trying to build a Walmart or equivalent similar business. This business is all about details. It's all about daily execution. It's all about nuances. The rice which gets bought in Bangalore is different than the rice which gets bought in Mysore. And if you don't make the nuances right on a daily basis, you could be an unprofitable business versus a profitable business. So our business requires that. And I think to me that as we work through our business and our customers and our vendors and try to keep getting the playbook right, we're realizing that the number one thing is hard work. If you have people who are enjoy working hard, then 80% of your job is done. Because then you know that is assumed. And sort of, and that's why it has become more top
So
of the
the
mind.
so the other side of this coin, or the mirror opposite of this, is that you're saying that this is not an easy business. This takes time to generate value, to generate something sustainable, will require people to both think longer term arcs as well as on a daily basis understand this is a operationally complex business where we are constantly solving problems, and that is the work ethic that you're referring to. That
मुझे लगता है कि like I think all building all meaningful businesses is hard. I don't think one is easy versus. I don't think वो वाली बात है. I'm just saying कि if you look at our business, and you can easily imagine it, it's a lot about. It's not like the way in our business, the basic thing is you build a playbook of execution in a Bangalore or in a cluster, and then you generate value that playbook gets executed over decades, every day. Like that's what a DMart is, a Costco. It's not like every day they're doing something new. They built a playbook of how to run a store. Now DMart is generating value for shareholders and customers and vendors and employees because that playbook is being executed in 300 stores every day for 10 periods of time. That is the way DMart is creating value. A Disney or a Universal is creating value by creativity. Every day they have to find some new ideas and create.
That's
So-
their playbook.
So these two. So Udaan is on this side where a lot of value we will create for anybody is by processes and sheer execution on processes, not by creativity. On every day, we're not going to solve new problems. Once you solve the problem, it's process. That's the reason why hard work, rigor, process, those become far more important in our culture in terms of the people you bring, how you actually organize the company, because that's your business. That's what I'm talking about. I think.
How do you, as a CEO, think about these playbooks? Because there is two levels of innovation required when it comes to executing playbooks over decades. One is, of course, the fact that the organization needs to have the discipline to stick to executing playbooks day after day after day and learn from those small mistakes or deviations and bring it back into the playbook and iterate the playbook. If the playbook I did today had a small deviation, I'll fix it tomorrow. The second innovation is those playbooks itself need to, which is where I think the leadership and the CEO comes in, that the creativity or innovation required, that what is the playbook? What will my playbook look like 2 years from now? What will it look like 1 year from now? That the operational team can only give you feedback, but they can't fix it for you, right? So at Udaan, how do these two
We have not
processes
figured
run?
it out. We have not figured it out yet. I think we have not. We have come to realization of this is how it is needed, and we're moving towards that. But I don't think me, or kind of the 5, 6, 10 guys who are sort of trying to build this out, we have yet figured this out.
How do you think about, how do you even, like, in this leadership team, is there, like, I mean, the playbooks, how does it enter your discussions when you're planning, when you're executing? Is there anything different that you're doing today vis-a-vis, let's say, 3 years back, 5 years
बहुत
back?
डिफरेंस है. आई थिंक मुझे लगता है कि दिस सेंस ऑफ, पहले मुझे लगता था, एंड मे बी इट्स ऑल सेम जर्नी, कि बड़ा बनने के लिए शुरू में ही बड़ा बन जाना चाहिए. Now my realization is to have something really big, 100 billion, 200 billion. The most important thing is foundations and quality. अगर आप वो नहीं बनाते तो आप बहुत बड़ा नहीं बन सकते. आप बड़ा बन सकते हो लेकिन बहुत बड़ा नहीं बन सकते. The real scale comes only because you got your quality right. Quality of your organization, quality of your systems, quality of your brand, everything of what you do. Depth needs to be there. So 3-4 साल में बहुत shift हुआ है कंपनी में, right? About as we have tried to say कि यार we want to do something really, really big. What is needed to do that? So a lot of the conversation, daily conversation in kind of leadership team at multiple level is changing to what is the playbook which generates the business, not what is the business numbers. What is the playbook? Did we get the right playbook? How do we measure if the playbook is right? And playbook could be कि यार हम लोगों का sourcing playbook ये है, ये वाले SKUs रखने हैं, इनको इन लोगों से सॉर्ट्स करना है, डेली इतने लोगों से इसका कोट लेना है, उसके बाद क्या डिसीजन लेना है, प्राइसिंग कैसे करनी है, अगर प्राइसिंग कंपेटिव करनी है तो कंपेटिव यहाँ पे, मार्केट डेटा को डेली कैसे मेजर करना है, उसका क्या प्रोसेस है, उस प्रोसेस में कितने गैप हैं. All of those are playbook conversations. So playbooks are all about activity systems we design. We give those activity systems for our people to execute. We measure what happened on that. And then we tomorrow get in and say, कल के क्या हुआ, कल की क्या learning थी, चलो changes करते हैं इसके अंदर. So we've been now as a leadership team largely about finding playbooks which can generate the design kind of the output into the system. और मुझे लगता है कि वो जर्नी हमारी कंपनी की लास्ट 18 मंथ की जर्नी है, right? And we took actually a part of Bangalore city, right? A small neighborhood of Bangalore city, about 10% of Bangalore city.
What
And
was it?
We called it an IOTA project, which
No,
was
no, which neighborhood was
it,
it?
it is like it's a bit confidential, but I'll
Oh,
give you a
fair.
sense that it's about a tenth of Bangalore representative.
Sure.
We said कि यार let's go and relook at the business over there. And we started saying customers क्या कर रहे हैं, क्यों churn हो रहे हैं, क्या खरीद रहे हैं, क्या नहीं खरीद रहे हैं. We started really going deep into that. Over the 18 months, in those, and these are mature neighborhoods, right? These is where all competition came in. We now have gotten 95% penetration. M6 repeat is now close to 98%.
M6 meaning
Means
month
6
six?
महीने का
Month
repeat,
six.
right? Our number of buyers on daily basis is almost 5x of any person, any competition in those markets. Our wallet share is 3x. So those markets for us have grown close to 15x. Our gross margin is 3x what we used to do. Our categories penetration is much higher. Our lending performance is much, much better. Our supply chain costs are much lower because we really worked on the playbooks. And we were able to do that because the only thing we were trying to solve for was playbooks, right? So I think there is a big...
And also in this constrained space, instead of trying to roll it out pan
क्योंकि
में.
उसमें क्या है कि ऑल ऑफ आप किसी को बोल नहीं कर सकते कि यार आप जाके प्लेबुक सॉल्व कर दो मेरी कंपनी की. इट इज लाइक यू ऑल हैव टू डू इट, अदरवाइज नहीं होता है, which has been another learning. So we could do it because in Bangalore you can go and you spend time and I think I don't think we've figured out the playbook yet. While we've seen goodness, a lot of goodness, it has changed the company thinking कि यार ऐसे करना है, अब कंपनी ऐसे बनेगी, ऐसे नहीं बनेगी कि आपने नंबर डाल दिया और
So it's not a top-down vision, but it's really like an execution bottom-up vision which you then scale out.
ऐसे ही बनेगा ये बिजनेस. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि ये चलो यार अगले साल के ये नंबर होंगे, प्लान बना दो और इसको रिव्यू शुरू कर दो. आई डोंट थिंक दैट काइंड ऑफ इज द वे. यू डू रियली पुट. एंड टू मी वन ऑफ द एग्जांपल्स आई गॉट फ्रॉम समवन वाज व्हिच हैज रियली स्टक विद मी. लाइक people, I asked people ki which other companies, and DMart came multiple times and I said DMart kaise banaya? So they said ki Damani ji for first 5-6 years the only thing he did was iterated on one store. वो स्टोर समझ नहीं आया तो फिर कुछ 2-3 साल ट्राई किया, उसमें से कुछ लर्निंग आई, फिर दूसरा स्टोर जाके खोला, फिर उसमें वो सारी इटरेशंस करी, फिर उनके पास एक बन गया. अब उन्होंने कहा कि अब इसको मैं रेप्लिकेट करूँगा. And this business of Udaan, almost all grocery heavy businesses in my head are like that only. You have to really get that core model right. Unless you get it right, you will just...
Can there be a differentiator? Because you said earlier in the context of DMart also and otherwise also that over the longer term, all businesses converge to fundamentals. I think it came up in our research. Perhaps you said it, perhaps you didn't. But I think that's broadly true, right? In very competitive spaces, it's very hard for fundamentals to be ignored. Let's go back to the DMart example that you gave, that he started, Damani started with one store, which he perfected, and then he iterated it to the second store. Now let's talk about your playbooks. You said that within this 10% area of Bangalore, you perfected the playbook, and now you hope, I'm guessing that you will replicate it to maybe 20%, 50%, then other cities, etc. and all that. Can these playbooks be differentiated? Can they be the source of, because otherwise what is it? Because the B2B space that you're in today has lots of competitors, from the largest of players, from a Reliance to funded peers in the space. What is a true differentiator for Udaan or anyone else in this space today?
मुझे लगता है कि पहले मेरे पास आंसर डिफरेंट होता, अभी थोड़ा आंसर डिफरेंट है.
Tell me both, please.
पहले मेरा आंसर थोड़ा स्ट्रैटेजी कंसल्टेंट वाला होता. And I think that's been my journey as a
What
person.
would that have
Which
been?
would have been कि यार देखो, it's scale matters, volume matters, right? And kind of if you get those working in a market, sort of you over a period of time create barriers for others to enter. It takes more capital, which is right, by the way. I won't disagree with that. Which is a right interpretation.
But it is just a necessary but not sufficient condition.
It's one way of looking, which is more top down, which is how kind of consulting teaches you. Right now, I think to me, what I've learned is sheer focus on kind of daily design, which can get more customers to stick with you, more customers to buy more from you, for more vendors to come with you, they to give you more gross margin, for you to reduce your cost. If you kept doing this in a business like ours, you will be winner in this country. Because you have figured out a model कि इस geography के अंदर इतने लोग हैं, इतने लोगों को मैंने ये प्रोडक्ट दिया है, ऐप पे आओ, ऐप पे ये सिलेक्शन है, इसको ऑर्डर करो, मैं कल डिलीवर करूँगा. वो लोग आपसे खरीद रहे हैं, वो लोग आपसे इतना खरीद रहे हैं कि आपकी कॉस्ट डिलीवरी की कम हो गई है, सब सर्विस की कम हो गई, आप प्रॉफिट बना रहे हो, आपको वेंडर्स उस पर मार्जिन दे रहे हैं, और वो मार्केट बहुत बड़ी है और वो उसमें आप ग्रो कर सकते हो। अगर आपने वो कर लिया इंडिया में, तो मुझे लगता है कि यू हैव सेट अप द थिंग फॉर अ वेरी वेरी बिग बिजनेस. What I've realized is there's such a big opportunity. Like the market we are operating in, Rohin, in Bangalore city is $10 billion annual. Across India, it's a 700, $800 billion annual market. Just Bangalore city is $10 billion.
This is the B2B trade.
The B2B market, right? And all companies combined who have played in this market over 8 years still have not grown, combined have not gone more than 10% share. That's such a large market. Just Bangalore city, we could build like a $5 billion business. And it's not because market is not there, or it's not because competition is there. It's because the companies who are working on it have not gotten it till now the right thing. And I don't think we have perfected it. I do believe we have made a lot of progress as a company to move in this direction. But I don't think any single player, no be big or small or regional or category, has till now found the real model over here. And whoever will find will become a very big company because it's a massive opportunity. But I don't think anybody has done that.